Your soulmate just learned you're about to leave. And they panicked. My beloved child, something changed the moment your soulmate learned that you might be about to leave. Until that moment, they believed there would always be more time, another chance to speak, another opportunity to show you what they had been keeping inside, another day to finally say the words they kept postponing. But when the possibility of losing your presence suddenly became real, their heart could no longer stay quiet. They panicked not because they were unprepared for change, but because they realized how much of their future had secretly been built around you. Don't skip, because what they understood in that single moment is only the beginning. They started remembering the smallest things about you, the way your presence could change the feeling of an ordinary day, the conversations they replayed long after they ended, and the moments when they almost told you everything but stopped themselves. Now those unfinished moments feel completely different. For the first time, they are asking themselves one terrifying question: what if I waited too long? And the answer forming inside them is pushing them toward a decision you never expected. What happened next surprised even them. Instead of trying to forget what they heard, your soulmate began thinking about every possible way to reach you before you became too distant. They imagined what life would feel like if your conversations disappeared, if they could no longer wonder whether tomorrow might finally bring the moment they had been waiting for. And suddenly, something they had hidden even from themselves became impossible to deny. You were never just another person passing through their life. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and the deepest part of this revelation has not been uncovered yet. Your soulmate has been carrying words they thought they could save for later, but later suddenly feels uncertain. That realization changed everything. The hesitation that once controlled them is beginning to disappear, because the thought of watching you walk into a new chapter without knowing the truth feels heavier than finally revealing what their heart has been protecting. And here is where everything takes an unexpected turn. Your soulmate didn't only panic because you might leave, they panicked because they had already made a private decision about you before they learned the news. A decision connected to a future conversation, a truth they wanted to reveal, and a promise they had quietly made to themselves about what they would do when the right moment arrived. They believed they had plenty of time. Now they know they may not. Don't skip. The next part changes the meaning of everything you have heard so far, because your possible departure has forced them to choose between silence and the one confession they have been afraid to place into words. Something huge is waiting for you, because they are no longer asking whether they should tell you. They are asking how quickly they can reach you before the opportunity disappears, and the exact words they are preparing to say could explain why they never truly wanted you to leave their life in the first place. The moment your soulmate realized there might not be another perfect opportunity, something inside them completely shifted. All those carefully hidden feelings suddenly became louder than their hesitation. They began replaying every moment when they could have told you the truth, but chose silence instead, the conversation where they almost opened their heart, the moment they wanted to ask you to stay, the times they pretended everything was ordinary when their feelings were anything but ordinary. Now they understand something they never expected to understand this deeply. Your presence had quietly become part of the future they imagined. Don't skip, because the reason they panicked goes much deeper than simply missing you. They had already pictured a moment when they would finally sit across from you and explain everything, why they pulled back sometimes, why they seemed uncertain, why their words never matched the intensity of what they felt. But suddenly, they learned you might leave before that conversation could ever happen. That possibility shook them. And now one thought keeps returning: they cannot leave without knowing what they truly mean to me. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and their next realization changes everything. Then came the revelation they could no longer ignore. Your soulmate understood that they had been waiting for certainty when their heart had already given them the answer. They didn't need another sign, another perfect day, or another carefully planned moment. The possibility of losing closeness with you made everything painfully clear. They cared far more deeply than they had ever admitted. Suddenly, all the little things became enormous. The memory of your voice, the way certain words reminded them of you, the moments they instinctively wanted to tell you something first, and the strange emptiness they imagined if you were no longer part of their everyday world. Don't skip, because this is where their panic started turning into determination. Instead of asking themselves whether they should speak, they began thinking about what they would say when they finally did. They wanted you to know that their silence was never indifference. Their distance was never proof that you meant nothing. Behind everything they failed to express was a feeling they kept trying to understand before giving it a name. But now there is no room left for pretending. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate has finally realized that losing the opportunity to tell you would hurt far more than being vulnerable enough to tell you everything. And then they made a choice that could change the entire direction of this story. Your soulmate decided that if there is still even one genuine opportunity to reach you, they will not waste it. They are preparing to say what they once believed they would keep hidden much longer, and there is one sentence sitting at the center of everything, a sentence they have imagined telling you more than once, but never found the courage to finish. Stay till the end, because the next part reveals what pushed them toward that sentence and why your possible departure became the moment that finally broke through every wall they had built around their feelings. They are realizing that some people enter your life and become memories, while others quietly become part of how you imagine tomorrow. And in their heart, you became the second kind. That is why the news of you leaving affected them so strongly. They weren't only afraid of losing another conversation, they were afraid of losing the future they had secretly hoped might include you. Now the clock in their mind is moving faster, their hesitation is fading, and one truth is becoming impossible to hide. Before you step away, they desperately want you to know exactly why they never wanted your story together to end here. But what your soulmate did after that realization was something even they never expected. For the first time, they stopped thinking about how vulnerable they might look and started thinking about what silence could cost them. Your possible departure had awakened a truth they had spent far too long avoiding. Some opportunities do not wait forever. Suddenly, they remembered every unfinished conversation between you, every meaningful glance they had tried to dismiss, every time they wanted to move closer, but convinced themselves there would always be another day. Now those memories were returning with one powerful message: speak before the moment passes. Don't skip, because this is where the story takes a completely different direction. Your soulmate began mentally preparing the conversation they had once been too hesitant to have. They imagined you standing in front of them, and instead of hiding behind ordinary words, they imagined finally saying, "Before you go, there is something you deserve to know about me." And that sentence is only the doorway. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. What comes after those words is the confession they never thought they would have to reveal this soon. Here is what makes everything even more surprising. Your soulmate had noticed the possibility of you becoming distant before anyone actually told them. Something felt different. Maybe your energy seemed more focused on a new chapter, maybe conversations carried a quiet sense of change, or maybe they simply felt that time was moving faster than expected. They ignored that feeling because accepting it would have forced them to confront everything they had been postponing. But once they learned you might truly leave, all those tiny signs suddenly connected. And their biggest realization was not, "I am going to miss this person." It was, "Why did I wait so long to show them how important they became?" Don't skip. There is a reason their reaction became so intense, and it has nothing to do with a temporary emotion. Your soulmate had secretly been building courage for a future moment with you. They wanted to reveal something meaningful when everything felt perfect. But your possible departure destroyed their perfect timeline, and strangely, that may be exactly what their heart needed. Because now they understand that the perfect moment was never a date on a calendar. The perfect moment was simply the moment they finally chose truth over hesitation, and then came the thought that changed their entire plan. What if you were leaving because you believed they did not care enough? That possibility hit them differently. Suddenly, they started wondering whether their silence had accidentally told you the opposite of what they actually felt. What if you interpreted their hesitation as disinterest? What if you stopped waiting because they never gave you a reason to stay emotionally connected? Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you, and this question is about to push them toward their boldest decision yet. They no longer want you walking away carrying the wrong story about their heart. They want to correct everything their silence failed to explain. And there is one specific truth they are preparing to reveal, a truth connected to the exact moment they first realized you were becoming more important than they intended. They remember where they were. They remember what happened. They even remember the tiny detail about you that made everything suddenly feel different. That memory has remained quietly protected inside them ever since. And now, because you may be leaving, they are finally ready to open that hidden chapter and tell you what actually happened the day their feelings for you became impossible to ignore. There was one moment your soulmate never told you about, and now it is becoming impossible for them to keep it hidden. It wasn't some dramatic scene or perfectly planned encounter, it was something surprisingly small. You said something, did something, or simply showed a side of yourself that reached them differently than anything before. In that instant, they looked at you and realized they were no longer experiencing an ordinary connection. They carried that realization home with them. They replayed it later. They tried convincing themselves it would fade, but it didn't. Instead, your importance quietly grew. Don't skip, because your possible departure has brought that exact memory rushing back, and suddenly they understand why the thought of you leaving affected them so deeply. They weren't panicking over one goodbye. They were facing the possibility that the person who had quietly changed their emotional world might move forward without ever knowing it. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because this memory has pushed them toward a confession they once believed they had plenty of time to make. And now their biggest struggle is deciding how much to reveal when they finally reach you. Do they simply say they will miss you, or do they tell you the whole truth? Do they keep the conversation comfortable, or finally admit that they imagined you remaining in their life far beyond this chapter? Every time they consider choosing the safer words, one thought stops them. What if this is my only chance? Don't skip, because that question changes everything. Your soulmate is beginning to understand that protecting their feelings might have protected them from vulnerability, but it also kept you from knowing how deeply you mattered. They remember moments when you may have needed reassurance, yet they stayed quiet. They remember times when one sincere sentence could have changed the atmosphere between you, yet they held it back. Now they wish they could return to those moments, not to rewrite the entire past, but simply to be braver. And here is the surprising part. They are no longer waiting for courage to magically appear. The thought of losing the opportunity has become stronger than the fear of speaking. Something huge is waiting for you, because the words forming inside them are no longer uncertain. They are becoming clearer with every passing moment. I should have told you sooner. You became important to me long before you ever realized. But there is still one truth they have not even fully admitted to themselves, and it is the reason their next move could surprise you most. Your soulmate isn't only thinking about stopping you long enough to confess their feelings, they are thinking about whether there is still a place for them in whatever chapter you are entering next. Stay till the end, because this is where panic begins transforming into purpose. Instead of wishing circumstances were different, they are asking what they can actually do differently. They cannot control where life takes you, and they do not want to hold you back from something meaningful. What they want is far more powerful. They want the chance to finally be honest before you decide what comes next. Don't skip. The next part reveals the question they are preparing to ask you, a question they have rehearsed silently again and again, because your answer could completely redefine everything between you. And beneath that question is something even bigger, a promise they are finally ready to make, not because they suddenly became fearless, but because imagining a future where they never told you feels far harder than finally opening their heart. Then, in the middle of all that uncertainty, your soulmate finally found the question they could no longer keep inside. Is there still room for me in the life you are moving toward? That question surprised even them, because until now they had been trying to appear calm, patient, and unaffected. But the possibility of you leaving stripped away every excuse. They realized they were not asking you to abandon your next chapter, they were asking whether your connection could survive it. Don't skip, because what they are preparing to say after that question carries the truth they have avoided for far too long. They want you to know that while they were quiet, they were noticing everything. They noticed how naturally they searched for you in a room, how certain moments felt incomplete until they could tell you about them, and how your presence slowly became familiar in a way they never expected. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because they have finally understood that their panic was not really about distance. It was about regret, the possibility of watching you move forward while believing you never mattered enough for them to speak. But there is another layer to this story that changes everything. Before your soulmate learned you might leave, they had already started preparing themselves to become more open with you. They had been waiting for a moment when they could finally explain why they sometimes held back, why they seemed to move closer, and then become quiet again. The truth was simpler than you might imagine. What they felt had become important enough to make them careful. They did not want to say something meaningful and then fail to live up to it. They wanted certainty before giving you words that could change your connection. But now they understand the mistake in that plan. They were waiting until they felt completely ready while life kept moving. Don't skip. The revelation coming next is the one they never expected to make. They would rather speak imperfectly now than remain perfectly silent until it is too late. And the sentence they've been rehearsing is becoming clearer. I don't know exactly what tomorrow looks like, but I know I don't want today to end with you misunderstanding how much you mean to me. Something huge is waiting for you, because once they say that, there is another truth they intend to place right beside it. That truth is about the future they never told you they had imagined. Not some perfect fantasy, but ordinary moments, the kind that reveal where someone truly wants you. They imagined conversations continuing long after the current chapter ended. They imagined hearing about your victories, supporting your new beginnings, laughing with you over things nobody else would understand, and someday looking back together at the moment when everything almost slipped away because neither of you knew what the other was thinking. Stay till the end, because this is where their panic turns into something far more powerful. Your soulmate has stopped asking how to prevent change and started asking how to make sure change does not erase what matters. They are ready to tell you that leaving one place, one routine, or one chapter does not have to mean leaving them behind. Don't skip, because the next part reveals the promise they are preparing to make, and the unexpected reason they believe your possible departure may not be the ending they feared. It may actually become the moment that forces both of you to discover what this connection was meant to become. Just when your soulmate thought they understood what they were feeling, another realization changed the entire meaning of your possible departure. They suddenly understood that they had been treating your connection like something guaranteed, something that would patiently remain while they gathered courage. But now, for the first time, they could see how precious every unfinished conversation had become. And that is when they made a quiet promise to themselves. If they get the opportunity to speak to you before this chapter changes, they will not hide behind vague words anymore. Don't skip, because this promise is bigger than simply saying, I will miss you. They want to tell you that wherever your next chapter takes you, they do not want distance or change to automatically erase what exists between you. They want to make an effort. They want to communicate instead of assuming. They want to show through consistency what they previously struggled to express through words. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is realizing that the strongest connections are not protected by perfect circumstances. They are protected when two people finally stop pretending those connections do not matter. And then something unexpected happened inside their mind. Instead of seeing your departure only as something they feared, they began seeing it as a moment of truth. If their feelings disappear simply because circumstances change, then perhaps those feelings were never as deep as they believed. But if they still want you in their life, even when things become less convenient, then the answer becomes undeniable. Don't skip. They tested that thought again and again, and every time they reached the same conclusion, they still wanted to know how your day went, still wanted to hear about the dreams you were chasing, still wanted to be present when something wonderful happened for you. That realization silenced their final excuse. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate has now stopped wondering whether their feelings are temporary. They are beginning to understand why the news affected them so strongly. You had become connected to their sense of tomorrow. And now they are preparing to tell you something they once believed would remain hidden much longer. I was waiting for the right time to show you how much this connection means to me. But hearing that you might leave made me realize that the right time is something we sometimes have to create. But the biggest revelation has still not arrived. Stay till the end, because your soulmate has begun remembering something you said long ago, something you may not even remember saying. At the time, It seemed like an ordinary sentence, but they never forgot it. Those words became one of the reasons they started imagining you differently, and now, with everything changing, that memory is returning with unbelievable clarity. Don't skip, because it is connected directly to the question they want to ask when they finally speak to you. They are not planning to pressure you or ask you to abandon anything meant for your growth. Instead, they want one honest answer. If they finally stop hiding and show you exactly how much you matter, would you allow this connection the chance to continue into whatever comes next? Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate is no longer panicking about the possibility of goodbye. They are preparing to turn that fear into the most honest conversation you have ever shared, and what they remembered about your own words may give them the courage to reveal the one truth they have protected from you from the very beginning. What your soulmate remembered was not some grand declaration. It was a simple sentence you once said without realizing how deeply it would stay with them. You spoke about wanting people in your life who were genuine, people who would not disappear simply because circumstances changed, people whose actions matched what they claimed to feel. Your soulmate remembered those words because, secretly, they wondered whether they could ever become that person for you. And now, with the possibility of you leaving suddenly becoming real, that forgotten sentence feels like it was meant for this exact moment. Don't skip, because this is where everything inside them begins to connect. They understand now that telling you how they feel is only the beginning. If they truly want a place in your next chapter, they have to show you through what they do afterward. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate is preparing to make a promise they never expected to make this soon. They do not want to become another unfinished memory in your life. They want to become someone whose presence remains meaningful even when the scenery around you changes. Then another thought struck them with surprising force. What if you had been waiting for some sign from them too? What if there were moments when you wondered why they stayed quiet, why they never crossed that invisible line between almost saying something and finally saying it? Suddenly, your soulmate started reviewing your past conversations differently. Certain pauses felt more meaningful. Certain questions you asked seemed deeper. Certain moments when you stayed a little longer suddenly returned to their mind. Don't skip, because they are beginning to wonder whether the story they thought was one-sided may have contained signals they were too cautious to recognize. They are not assuming what you feel. They simply realize they never gave either of you the chance to discover the truth. Something huge is waiting for you, because that realization has changed their plan. They no longer want to approach you with a perfectly rehearsed speech. They want to approach you honestly. They want to look at you and say, I heard you might be leaving, and I realize there is something I cannot keep pretending doesn't matter. And after those words, everything they have hidden begins coming out, the memories, the hesitation, the reason they waited, and the truth about why losing everyday closeness with you suddenly felt impossible to ignore. But here is the twist they never saw coming. The more they think about you leaving, the less they want to stop you. Instead, they want you to go toward whatever future is calling you while knowing exactly how they feel. Stay till the end, because that distinction changes everything. Their panic started with a thought, how do I keep them here? But their heart has transformed that question into, how do I make sure they know they matter before they go? That is a completely different kind of feeling, one that does not demand possession, only honesty. Don't skip. Your soulmate is preparing to give you something more meaningful than a desperate request to stay, a choice made with the full truth in front of you. And something huge is waiting for you, because there is still one detail they have not revealed, the private reason they delayed this confession in the first place. It was never because they felt too little. It was because one particular moment made them realize they could feel far more than they were prepared for. And when that hidden moment finally comes to light, you will understand why hearing that you might leave shattered their silence so quickly. The private reason your soulmate stayed silent was hidden inside one unforgettable realization. The closer they felt to you, the more meaningful everything became. At first, they thought they could keep the connection simple. They could enjoy your conversations, appreciate your presence, and never ask themselves where any of it might lead. But then came one ordinary moment when something unexpectedly shifted. You were simply being yourself, completely unaware of what was happening inside them, and your soulmate caught themselves imagining what it would feel like if moments like that became part of their everyday future. That thought stopped them. Suddenly, this was no longer something they could casually dismiss. Don't skip, because this is the secret behind their hesitation. They did not become quiet because their feelings disappeared. They became careful because those feelings were becoming harder to ignore. They worried that saying everything too soon might change what already felt precious. So they waited. They watched. They told themselves there would be more time. And then came the news that you might leave. Stay till the end, because something huge is waiting for you. In one instant, the strategy they thought was protecting your connection began looking like the very thing that could leave it unfinished. That is when your soulmate started imagining the conversation they wish they had begun much earlier. Not with perfect words, not with some dramatic speech, but with the truth. I should have told you this before circumstances forced me to become brave. Don't skip, because what they want to say next reveals just how deeply your possible departure changed them. They want you to understand that you became important gradually, almost invisibly. There was no single announcement inside their heart telling them everything had changed. Instead, they simply started noticing that good news made them think of you, difficult days made them remember your encouragement, and ordinary moments somehow felt more meaningful when you were part of them. Something huge is waiting for you, because they have finally realized why they panicked when they learned you were about to leave. Losing your presence would not simply change their routine, it would expose all the feelings they had been postponing. And now they cannot return to pretending there is unlimited time. Every second of hesitation feels different because they finally know exactly what silence could cost. But then came the most surprising shift of all. Your soulmate stopped rehearsing how they would convince you to stay and started preparing to tell you something far more powerful. Go where your future needs you to go, but please don't mistake my silence for a lack of feeling. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because those words are only the beginning. They want you to know they would rather support your next chapter honestly than hold you inside an old one simply because they are afraid of change. Yet beneath that maturity is one question they desperately hope they will have the courage to ask. When everything changes, can we still choose not to lose each other? Don't skip, because the next part reveals what your soulmate secretly hopes your answer will be, and why they have begun preparing themselves for a conversation that could finally transform every unfinished moment between you into something neither of you expected. And now your soulmate has reached the moment they were secretly hoping would never arrive this quickly, the moment when imagination must become action. They can rehearse the conversation 100 times, but eventually they have to stand before you and speak. And the thought running through their mind is surprisingly simple. Please give me enough time to tell you what I should have said long ago. Don't skip, because something inside them has changed permanently. Before learning you might leave, they were afraid that honesty could change your connection. Now they are more afraid that silence will leave the connection unfinished forever. They keep imagining that first moment when they finally begin speaking, wondering whether you will immediately understand why their voice feels different, why their usual calmness has disappeared, why they suddenly have so much to say. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because they are no longer planning to hide behind hints. They want to tell you directly that you became one of the people they naturally thought about when imagining tomorrow. They want you to understand that your importance was never created by the possibility of losing you. The possibility of losing you simply forced them to finally recognize how important you had already become. But there is something even your soulmate did not expect. Beneath all their panic, they have started feeling hope. They began asking themselves what would happen if this change was not arriving to separate you, but to force a conversation that otherwise might never have happened. What if your departure becomes the reason both of you finally stop guessing? What if the distance they feared becomes the moment they learn whether the connection is strong enough to continue beyond convenience? Don't skip, because this thought has completely transformed how they see what is coming. Instead of thinking only about what could disappear, they are thinking about what could finally begin. Something huge is waiting for you. Your soulmate is preparing to tell you, I cannot predict where everything goes from here, but I know I would regret letting you leave without knowing that you mattered to me more than I ever showed. And once those words are spoken, they know there is no returning to the comfortable uncertainty that existed before. The truth will finally be standing between you, waiting for an answer. Then comes the question they have been carrying through every sleepless thought about this moment. What will you say when they ask whether this connection deserves another chapter? Stay till the end, because they are not expecting some perfect response. They simply want honesty, the same honesty they finally found inside themselves. They want to know whether there were moments when you felt something meaningful too, whether their presence ever became part of your thoughts in ways they never noticed, whether leaving this chapter behind has made you realize anything you were also afraid to say. Don't skip. Something huge is waiting for you, because your soulmate has one final revelation they intend to share before asking for your answer. It is the truth behind the exact moment they panicked when they heard you were leaving. Their first thought was not about where you were going. It was not about how far away you might be. Their first thought was your name followed by one sentence. I haven't told them yet. And that sentence revealed everything. The next time they have the opportunity to reach you, they have decided there will be no more, not yet. There will only be the truth and whatever beautiful new chapter that truth makes possible. Now the moment your soulmate feared is becoming the moment they need most, because they have finally understood what those 4 words, I haven't told them yet, were trying to reveal. They had spent so much time believing their feelings could remain safely unspoken, as though you would somehow understand without ever hearing the truth. But the possibility of you leaving destroyed that illusion. Don't skip, because this is where their final wall begins to fall. They are no longer searching for perfect timing, perfect circumstances, or perfect words. They are preparing to find you, speak honestly, and finally say, before everything changes, I need you to know that meeting you changed something in me. Stay till the end. Something huge is waiting for you, because that sentence leads directly into the confession they once promised themselves they would only make when they felt completely ready. And now they realize something extraordinary. Sometimes readiness does not arrive first. Sometimes the thought of losing a meaningful opportunity forces courage to arrive before readiness ever does. But what they plan to reveal next goes deeper than simply saying they care. Your soulmate wants to tell you about all the invisible ways you became part of their world, the conversations they remembered hours later, the little details about you they somehow never forgot. The moments when something happened and you were the first person they wished they could tell. Don't skip, because they are finally connecting all those tiny pieces into one undeniable truth. You did not become important overnight. You became important quietly, moment by moment, until hearing that you might leave suddenly made them see the entire picture at once. Something huge is waiting for you, because their panic has now transformed into clarity. They are not asking life to freeze so you never have to move forward. They are asking themselves to become brave enough to move forward too. And if that means admitting that they want to remain connected to you beyond this chapter, they are finally prepared to say it without hiding behind uncertainty. Then comes the revelation they have saved for the very end of the conversation, the one thought they know could cha.